Hey Tony, it's Tuesday, and first off, to answer your question of the week, usually what I try and do is I get a lot of influences from a lot of different things. Like, when I was running my mass game, it was really Teen Titans inspired, so I did a lot of Teen Titans. Oh, sorry, I'm trying to get. Oh, let me get this. Make sure there's not a sun glare on this. Make you think I'm J.J. Abrams. Um, but usually I end up watching that. Like I watched some Young Justice when I was trying to make another game. But it's just kind of a kind of look at what my inspiration is. Like, when I was running my Witcher game, the first thing I did was started playing more Witcher 3. Obviously watched the show. The show's not that good. And it's just I always try and immerse myself in the lore or in inspirations for the game, because I think it makes it more fun, especially if it's a real if it's a known property, something like a Star Wars or something like that. Then I think it kind of helps contextualize it a little bit more, and then it gives me a real chance to make a good story out of it. I probably sound a little off today. I'm getting over a cold and ended up getting a double whammy yesterday of a stomach bug and a cold after Jay Taylor and Skylar were all and Justice were all sick over the weekend. So it was my turn yesterday. But so I don't have a whole lot to talk about this week, except we're gonna do another good old-fashioned Josh podcast recommendations, because I've started listening to a lot more again. I travel a lot more, so a lot of podcasts that I might have initially turned off, I now turn back on and have a good time listening to it. Again, sorry, I'm kind of getting over the cold. But so the first one I want to recommend is, if you are interested in ancient history, this that's new to me. It's been around for a while, but this new to me podcast that I started listening to is called The Ancients, and it's really, really, really good. It's basically this guy ends up getting a bunch of experts on specific eras in ancient history. He gets them on the show and he asks them questions, kind of interviews them, talks about it. It was really good. Like, I've listened to one on the late Bronze Age collapse, the ancient Amazonians, which was really, really a good one. Obviously some ancient Rome ones, because of course. And trying to think if there was any more besides those I listened to. Again, I just started listening to it, but it's really, really good. I definitely recommend it. If you're more into true crime, one I heavily recommend is Generation Y. Now, this is one that, I had you and Tori listen to, mostly Tori over you, when you guys were up in October. But I think a lot of true crime is kind of exploitative, but I actually think Generation Y does a pretty good job of telling good stories without sensationalizing things, so that's another one I definitely recommend. If you're into some nerdier podcasts, some of the ones I listen to two for Star Wars Legion. One that's actually, really for some competitive ideas. The other is just because it's fun. The competitive one is called Notorious Scoundrels, and they do a little bit of teaching on what to do for it, but they're really focused on the higher level competitive. And I'm not really a high level competitive guy, but it's still kind of neat when you end up getting gives you an idea of oh, hey, this list is good for that, and this list is good for this. So that's one I definitely recommend, and just for fun is a Stabcast. It's just a bunch of guys just having fun on a a whatever night, chatting. So that's another one I definitely recommend. If you're really into basically a closed story that I was fascinated by, it was called Criminal Attorney. So there was a guy there was an attorney in Newark, New Jersey. Newark is the capital of New Jersey. He was an attorney in Newark, and he was like the top defense attorney in New Jersey, and he was one of the top defense attorneys in the country. But he kind of built a whole house of cards that then ended up collapsing on itself, and he's now in the highest security federal prison in the country, in Florence, Colorado, which the likes of El Chapo, the infamous Mexican Sinaloan drug cartel leader, the Boston Marathon bombers, and a whole bunch of other top threats and things like that. But his story is really fascinating. It was one I definitely recommend. I don't want to spoil too much of it, but the story is wild, and it's, as an attorney, it was even more interesting because I could kind of go like, oh, he did this, wrong. He did this right. Oh, he should have done this. Then you kind of like, he builds up this house of cards. It all collapses on itself. So definitely recommend it. It was really interesting. So that's all I really want to have. That's all I have today. I don't want to talk too much because my throat's still a little bit off. But Tony, my question for you is, are there any audiobooks or audio podcasts you've been listening to lately? Tony, I'll see you on Friday. Later, bro.